Apparently my mic was off. I apologize about that. All right, let's try this again. We are live. Welcome to another edition of Boston Straight Shooters. I'm your host for this evening, Steve, aka Negative Ned. Frank is away on business, so he won't be joining us. This is the show we talk about Boston sports, the Bruins, the Patriots, the Celtics, and the Red Sox. Get you caught up to speed on all the goings on over the last week with the local teams here. And as we do every time we start the show without Frank or with him, I'll try and post a link for everybody so you guys can join the show. We have a lot to talk about, a lot of exciting things. Everybody wants to talk about USA winning the gold medal in hockey against Canada. We're going to get to that in a minute. But first, I need to vent a little bit. I'm sure I'm not alone. Nobody asked for 30 plus inches of snow around here. Mother Nature, do us all a favor. Grab the stupid groundhog and the two of you go to Florida and get some sun and leave us the hell alone from now on until next January, because I've had enough of this white crap. I'm done. I don't want to see any more after this melts. We're shutting you off. So, lots of, white piles of crap, bad backs, and disgruntled New Englanders as everybody's trying to dig out from this nonsense. And I don't want to hear the crap about, well, you're a New Englander, you live here, blah blah. Listen, I'm getting too close to the wrong end of 60 here. I'm not 20 something years old anymore. I don't need to be shoveling this crap. I'm getting too old for this. So you guys like it, you shovel it. You can come shovel mine too while you're at it. All right, enough of that. Let's get that. That's it for the winter blues. Let's move on to the good news. Let's move on to USA winning the gold medal versus Canada. An exciting 2-1 overtime win. It was a great game. I want to mention that, a lot of people were upset about the 8 a.m. start time on Sunday. If I was in my 20s, I'd probably be disgruntled too, because I wasn't getting up at 5:30 in the morning. But now I get up early, so it doesn't matter. So it didn't bother me. There's nothing else on anyway. There's only so much news and nonsense you can watch. So I was fine with this. I went out, grabbed my coffee, came in, put the game on, kicked my feet up for a little bit. And then I couldn't keep my feet up anymore, and I was on the edge of my seat. That's how good the game was, and it's been a long time since I could say I've been sitting on the edge of my seat for a hockey game. So very exciting. It was a great game. I think I mentioned this in the group chat with Danny and Dave and Tim and Carlo, that I felt like I was watching a Bruins game, because they reached a point probably in the second period where Canada was getting all the shots. They were hammering the USA in their own end. And, it just looked like, and they were getting a lot of scoring chances. It just looked like a game where the Bruins would get 40 shots on net. The other team would get 18 and score goals and win the game, 1-0, 2-1, 3-2. It just had that feel for me watching this game. But USA physical, both teams physical, but I like the grit that USA showed, and even though they weren't factors in the scoring, the Kachucks played well. Quinn Hughes, defenseman, man, it's him and Cale Makar. Those two guys are the best defensemen in the NHL by a mile and a half. It's like watching Bork and Coffee in the 80s and 90s, those two. Real good. So, USA jumped out first, 6 minutes into the first period. Matt Boldy with a phenomenal goal. He was racing up the middle of the ice, did like a little flip in between two guys and raced through between them, both of them, and walked in alone and scored. I know that Carlo, his brother Bobby, used to have the pip flip. He used to kind of do the same thing when we were playing street hockey, and it's the first thing that came to my mind when I saw him flip it like that. It was pretty cool. Uh, so they jump out to the 1-0 lead. They hang on at the end of the first period. It's 1-0. And second period, they Canada was carrying the play. Like I said, the USA was hemmed in their own end a lot. Uh, you know, Canada outshot the U.S. 19-8. They had numerous chances. Hellebuck stood on his head, the goalie. He was unbelievable. The save of the game he made, I don't remember which period it was in now because it's kind of a blur, but that save he made where he just stuck the stick out and blocked it from the empty net. That'll be on a poster on his wall and everybody else's wall, I'm sure. Any time, and he's been great throughout the whole Olympics too. Hellebuck. I want to say he was like 5-0 or 6-0, like a 1.41 goals against average, like 970 something save percent, like insane, like Xbox numbers. Like the goalie doesn't typically 1.4 something goals against 970 something. So that's not real. So he was phenomenal. I think Charlie McAvoy was good. He was being physical. Around here, he gets a lot of grief from the local media for making $9 million a year and not being Ray Bork or Bobby Orr or any of the other top defensemen. He doesn't score 20 goals in a year and put up 80 points. But when these games come around, man, when he's got the uniform on of the country, he definitely elevates the physical play, and he's physical already to begin with. But I feel like he steps it up more. I feel like that's obviously you're going to play better when you play with better talent. But I just feel like his game was elevated in these Olympics, and he played well. So no goals, no assists, whatever. He wasn't on the score sheet, but from a physical standpoint and shutting guys down and delivering hits and taking hits and so forth, I thought he was good. And I'm kind of hoping he brings a little bit of that to the Bruins when they start back up tonight. We'll get to them in a minute. So USA's got the 1-0 lead. They're carrying it into the second period. Team USA survived 2 back-to-back penalties in the second period. Jake Gensel for I want to say holding, and then hooking, and McAvoy 28 seconds later for holding. However, those penalties are 2 penalties back to back. Those are killers. You give Canada a 5-on-3, and they couldn't cash in. Fortunately, they killed it off, and that was good because you easily could have gave them 2 goals right there, and they could have busted it open. But it was scoreless, 1-0 still until a little less than 2 minutes left in the second period, and Cale Makar walked in from the point and scored that play. And I'm sure everybody feels like you can see that play coming a mile away. They're passing the puck down on the left wing side, and they pass it, and when they pass it back to the other defenseman there, Makar's breaking in, and they pass it across, and he walks in. He's like in the circle, and rifled it in on the far post past Hellebuck. It's a nice goal. Like I said, he's the best defenseman now. Him and Quinn Hughes. So good luck stopping that guy. It's a tough assignment. So they score. They make it 1-1. It's tied. They go into the third period. It's scoreless. It's up and down. It's physical. At the 13:26 mark, Sam Bennett high sticked Jack Hughes, hit him in the mouth, cost him a couple chiclets, or broken chiclets, I should say. And so USA got a 4-minute power play, and they just couldn't cash in. They couldn't get anything generated. Again, it was like watching the Bruins on the powerless play. It was frustrating. Uh, I really wish they could have cashed in there, but they couldn't get it. And of course, that Weasel Bennett didn't think he did anything wrong. Uh, you know, that's another one of those guys that, if he's on your team, you like him, he's okay. But if he's on everybody else, he's the enemy, and he's a weasel, and he is a weasel. I'll say that. Um, so, you know, unfortunately, couldn't cash that in. And then later on in the period, late in the period, at the 16:37 mark, Jack Hughes got a high sticking penalty, and USA killed that off. Um, and USA got outshot 14-10 in the third period. So it's tied at the end of 3 periods, and they go to overtime, and they do the 3-on-3 like they do in the NHL. Except what they did in the Olympics that I really wish they would do in the NHL is they made it was 10 minutes, 3-on-3 for 10 minutes before going to the shootout. I think, and I've been on this for a while, the NHL should adopt the 3-on-3 for 10 minutes overtime, and to try to cut down the number of shootouts or shootout losses. If you look at the standings, there's a cluster of teams that have like 12 shootout losses or 15 shootout. I'm like, your record's like 12, 15, and 15, 20, 15, and 15. It's like you got 15 overtime losses. You get a point for that. Or shootout losses, I'm sorry. The shootout losses, I don't like the shootout period. Everybody knows how I feel about that. I kind of wish that they'd put 10 minutes on the 3-on-3 to give the teams a better chance to try to win the game and get the 2 points and skip the shootout. I don't like it. But I already had that rant, so I'm not going to do it here. But, they go to the 3-on-3. Canada had a couple chances, couldn't cash in. And then Hellebuck passed the puck up to Zach Werenski, the defenseman, and he made a beautiful cross-ice pass over to Jack Hughes, and he shot it right between Jordan Binnington's legs, right through the 5-hole. And, I'm pretty sure no dry eyes in the house. It was real good. It felt good to get that monkey off the back. The USA, Team USA, I believe, has lost twice to Canada in the gold medal game, or at least in the Olympics. And, one caveat is Canada was without Sidney Crosby. He was hurt in a game prior to that, didn't play. He didn't play in this game. And that's kind of the equivalent of the Patriots getting a break and not having to face the Denver Broncos quarterback there who broke his ankle. Because Sidney Crosby, I'm not a Sidney Crosby fan, but you have to give credit where credit is due. He's a winner. He's a proven winner. He's among the all-time greats for sure. And, they catch a break without having him there, because I think if he was there, I think he really would have made a difference. It would have been a lot harder for USA to pull the win off. So they catch a break there without Sidney Crosby. But nothing but euphoria, obviously, for everybody around here. And I loved, and I can't think of many people who didn't like this, other than the International Hockey Federation or the Olympic Committee or whoever, is because they don't like the extracurricular crap. But I loved it when Matthew Tkachuk and I forget the other guy's name, they went over to the stands, and Johnny Gaudreau's wife and his parents were in the stands, and they went over and grabbed his kids. I forget how old his daughter is, but it was his son's birthday, turned 2 years old, and they brought him over for a team picture with them, with the jersey and whatnot. And so I thought that was unreal, phenomenal, class act. I think the hockey players, they do a lot of things like that, classy. And kudos to those guys for including the Gaudreau family in that, because it means a lot to them. And it's tragic what happened to him and his brother getting hit by the drunk driver. Zach Werenski, yeah, that's what I said. No, Danny. Um, he's the one that made the pass over to Jack Hughes. Um, so listen, I think it's one thing when the guys get together and play in the All Star game, and you're only there for All Star weekend. It's like 2 or 3 days, but you're over there in the Olympics for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, actually, whatever it is, and play with those guys and build the camaraderie and build the chemistry. And you know, I think a ton of credit goes to Mike Sullivan and the coaching staff for getting that all put together and helping USA win the gold. He's a good coach. I liked him when he was the Bruins coach. It just wasn't the right fit or the right players at the time. The guy's a Stanley Cup winner. Um, so kudos to him. And there was one thing I heard during the celebration at the end is that the coaches, none of the coaches get gold medals. I think that's putrid. What is the deal with that? I don't understand that at all. I think that they should all get medals. Anybody that's part of that team, whether it's the coaching staff, the trainers, the water boy, whoever the people are that are involved with Team USA when they win the gold, everybody should get one. It's kind of like, I want to say it's kind of like, well, I can't say that all teams do this, but a lot of the teams when they win the championship and they get the championship rings, I know Patriots do because Kraft's done it. The whole front office and everybody's all getting, I don't know about the cleaning people and whatnot, but a majority of the front office people are getting rings, administrative people and whatnot. The coaches should be like no brainers to me to get a gold medal as part of that, not just the players. So I'm a little disappointed that's the case there because I just don't think it's right. But huge win. And another thing that has the Boston sports media people around here upset is the whole 1980 Olympic hockey team. All the, Mike Ruzioni was on in between the first and second period, and they didn't like that. And, can we stop with the 1980? Well, it was the anniversary, it was the day of the time they beat Russia that time to win. So listen, it's part of history, and you have to have that now until they win I mean, when in 1980, the last time they had won it was 1960. And so I was like 12 or 13 years old. And that's all I ended up hearing on the telecast is, 1960, all the old guys on there, they were showing highlights. The 1960 U.S. team won the gold 20 years ago. Now it's 46 years ago. Now we can't talk about it. We can't talk about that being the anniversary and all that stuff. I don't like that either. I think you guys just, look, I'm negative Ned to a point, but that's overkill. It's still going to be talked about even after this gold medal win. And this is one of the few wins that USA has had over Canada in one of these tournaments. They used to have the Canada Cup tournament, and they had 1996. They had the World Cup of Hockey, and I was fortunate to go to that in Montreal when they played. I was fortunate to be there for Game 2 when the USA won. And immediately after the game, they were selling the tickets downstairs. And, me and the guys I was with, Carlo being one of them, and his brother, we went downstairs and we got tickets for the next game, USA versus Canada, and watched those guys win that tournament there. And I'm drawing a blank now, so I can't talk. The World Cup of Hockey. And that was exciting as hell. And the players on both sides, I mean, you got to think about who was playing in that tournament. Gretzky, Messier, Yzerman, for Canada. I mean, Grant Fuhr, like all these guys. And on USA, Brodeur. I think Martin Brodeur was the starting goalie for he's from the Devils. He was on Team Canada. You know, Team USA, Mike Richter in net was unreal. Brian Leach, Mike Modano, um, on and on. I'm not going to list them all, but that to me is probably the next best beating of Canada after 1980. Miracle on Ice. So, this is huge for USA Hockey and the local guys around here. Matt Boldy, and I'm sure everybody that was watching was like, "Oh, his mother's a bartender in Millis and this and that." You got him. You got the Kachuks. You got Jack Eichel. You got McAvoy played at BC or BU. I forget now. I can't remember all that stuff right now. But it's like the local ties on Team USA is, not something you would have heard about, 50 years ago. You wouldn't have a whole bunch of Massachusetts guys playing on Team USA, I don't think, at that time. And we did have some. I take it back because there were a few on the 1980 team. Mike Ruzioni and Jack O'Callahan, and there was a few others too, but not like this. I don't think there was this many. USA, two sets of brothers, the Kachuk brothers and the Hughes brothers. I think that's a first too. So, listen, I don't know if it'll be as good 4 years from now. Maybe it will, but for right now, savor it, enjoy it, and we're gonna flip over and talk about the Bruins for a little bit now. There's some trade rumors going around. The trade deadline is March 6th, next Friday at 3 p.m. And I have a note here. Hold on one second, Danny. I have Hannafins from Norwood. Yep, thank you. Where's the note Danny gave me here? Let's see. Andrew Peak, healthy scratch tonight. He's been rumored to be traded. I know that I read some stuff about the Bruins are looking for right-handed, right-shot defenseman. I don't know what that means. I don't know why they would trade Peak other than to move on from his contract. I forget if he has another year left or if this is his last year. For as much as I dogged them about the scoring or lack of, the Bruins are like, I don't know, 6th in goals for or something like that. And the power plays in the top 5. So the scoring hasn't been the issue. The defense has been the issue. And so my guess is if they're going to move on from Andrew Peak, they're going to try to get a shutdown guy. And I'm not talking about Brandon Carlo because that's not good enough. He's too soft to be that kind of guy. They need a guy that has a little more oomph, a little more physical. I know that the guy from Calgary, they tried to get in on, I forget his last name now, but the hiccup there was he wouldn't sign an extension. They couldn't come to an agreement on an extension before making the trade. That's why he didn't come here. And I'm fine with that because I think he's 29 or 30 years old. He was probably looking for a 6-year deal for like $6-7 million a year. It's like, no, we have to be done handing out those kind of contracts. Corpusalo is out. DiPietro is in. All right. Thanks for the update, Dan. Did he get hurt? Because Corpusalo was supposed to start the game that I know of. DiPietro is in, which I like. I've been wanting him all year long. Maybe listen, Corpusalo is out. That would be amazing if they traded him in the middle of the first period, and then at the end of the first period he's gone, and DiPietro's in there, and Corpusalo's on his way out of town. I don't know. Yes, what? Sorry, I got myself sidetracked. Anyway, yes, he got hurt, or yes, oh, he got hurt. Okay, thank you. It's just I got myself all fouled up there. Too much info. All right, so he got hurt. So DiPietro's in. That means Swayman wasn't the backup tonight. They probably gave him the night off because of the travel. So Corpusalo's hurt. That's a bummer because I wanted to see him go as part of a trade by Friday and get him out of here. And if he's hurt, they're not going to be able to trade him, which sucks. I've been on trading him. DiPietro again is tearing it up in Providence. I think he's got the best goals against the average and probably one of the best records. I mean, I wish Providence Bruins games were on TV because they're having a phenomenal year. I think they either broke or tied a record with like 13 or 14 straight wins or something like that. They're in first place. Uh, they're going. Yeah, resting swear. I figured that because of the travel. So listen, I want DPH up here next year at worst case. They can't they can't go through this again and then sign him to. I think he signed him to a 2-year deal for $865,000 a year. But I want to see him here next year. I want to see him in Swayman. There's no sense. He's already proven in Providence for 2 straight years now. He's the best goalie down there. So there's no point to me in having him down there. But that'll be a wrap for trade deadline when we see what happens with that. Um, the schedule for the Bruins this week, upcoming Columbus tonight, Saturday they're at Philadelphia, and Tuesday they have Pittsburgh before we come back on. So they have 3 games, and we'll see how they do. Let's see how they do. All right, let's move on. Watching the time here, we need to move on to where was I going next? We're going to go to the Celtics next. The Celtics had a West Coast road trip. They played 4 games over the last week. They played at Golden State. Old friend Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis were out there, and I don't remember how they did in the game. Those guys. I think Porzingis didn't play. He's hurt, as usual. So it's he didn't play. I think Horford played. I don't know what he did because I didn't look. But that's one of those games where the game comes on at 10 o'clock. I can't stay awake for those. It's too late. But they didn't have Steph Curry, so good win. Oh, excuse me. A good win against Golden State because that team's been a bugaboo for the Celtics over the last few years for sure. They won 121 to 110. Jaylen Brown, another triple-double, 25 points, 15 rebounds, 13 assists. Peyton Pritchard, 26 points off the bench. Sam Hauser, 16 points, 4 or 5 from 3. He was hot as a team. They shot 42% from 3, 17 of 40. Those are the kind of numbers that they're going to have if they want to be successful. Obviously, we talk about it all the time. But I think give credit again to Joe Mazzulla for figuring out that, Peyton Pritchard is better when he comes off the bench. And it must be just a mindset for him. Like the starting was probably messing him up. All right, thanks for that update, Danny. Corpusalo's back in. Not sure what happened. Maybe it was an equipment problem or something that if he got hurt, it's not that serious. But Celtics. Listen, that team hasn't been easy for them to play the last 4 or 5 years. So that's a good W. You catch a break with no Steph Curry, and we'll take it. Jaylen Brown. Listen, he's got to be seriously considered in the MVP conversation now. I've been on with Frank on his other show, Box Seats, with the guys over there, and they were talking about it. And a couple of the guys were like, "Hey, you got to give Jaylen Brown his due." One of them guys was like, "He's a bad man," right? So I think he's proving that he can be the number one, lead the team. I still don't like that he handles the ball too much. I wish he'd handle it just a little bit less. There'd be less turnovers for him, less pressure. But overall, if I had to pick MVP, I'd pick him. Everybody's going to pick Nikola Jokic out in Denver because the guy averages triple double a game. He's a monster. So they got he's really done a phenomenal job. He I think he stepped up big time. He should be definitely considered one of the top 2 guys right now, and I'd pick him. I'd pick him as the MVP minus Jason Tatum. He's really done a good job. What are you doing? Hold on. The team mascot wants to get in here. You can't come in here, you. Cat. You can't. Listen, I know you want to be on screen over here, but you can't. You stay over there. Listen, again, good win. Sam Hauser contributes, gives you 16 points off the bench or starting. I don't even know. But, he was cold early on in the year. He was struggling. And so he's getting his touch back, and that's huge for them. They're going to need that. And I'll say this, too, as we go on. I've really liked Hugo Gonzalez. Excuse me. Hugo Gonzalez. I kind of mocked the pick at the time. But him and Baylor Scheinman, them guys have been playing like tenacious defense. Those guys have been doing a really good job. So that's part of it too. When those guys can come in and give you excellent defense and force the other team into some mistakes and, be a boost for the second unit. So I think that finally Joe Mazzulla and Frank obviously would be able to talk more about, the rotations and so forth, but it seems like he's finally starting to get the rotations down right. I said when they traded for him that Vukovic would be huge for the Celtics to help with the defensive rebounding and so forth. He's been good. So bear with me 1 minute. Bear with me 1 minute here. All right. Family crisis emergency. We'll have to deal with that after the show's over. Sorry, dear. You're going to have to wait. All right. More Celtics. Celtics played the Lakers the next game Sunday. I was able to watch that game. It was on at 6:30. They stomped the hell out of them. I think at one point they were winning by like 30 points. And I love when they kick the crap out of the Lakers. Phenomenal. So I'm happy to see that. They won 111-89. Like I said, it wasn't even really that close. Jaylen Brown, 32 points. Peyton Pritchard, 30 points. He hit some huge shots in that game. The typical buzzer beaters at the end of the quarter and whatnot. 10 of 14 shooting. Neemias Quaid, 10 points, 12 rebounds. He's been playing better too, and I'm hoping that Vukovic is rubbing off on him a little bit. That's good. But the Celtics kind of just ran all over him and didn't let him breathe, didn't let him do anything. Luka Doncic, 25 points I think he had, right? And LeBron only had 20. I mean, those guys are really non-factors in the game. They're going to get their shots and their points, but they didn't really do nothing as far as I'm concerned. So extremely happy to see the Celtics stomp a mud hole in them guys. I hate the Lakers. Listen, this is Boston, right? And so these are the teams we hate. Hate the Canadians, hate the Yankees, hate the Lakers. Right? That's par for the course. And the Patriots. It's probably the Jets now at this point because of the whole Belichick thing. The teams you hate the most. But I love seeing them kick the crap out of the Lakers. That was awesome. Next game they played at Phoenix. They won 97-81. There was no Jaylen Brown that game. He's dealing with some kind of injury. And they were only up by 4 at the half. So the other guys, they picked it up. They outscored the Suns 30-11 in the third quarter and kind of ran away. Derek White picked up the slack, and this is the weird thing about him, is he'll be cold a lot of these games and get 8 points, 10 points, shoot 1 of 7 from 3, blah blah. And then there's a game like this where Jaylen Brown is out. He's got 22 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and he steps up. And so, just want to see a little more consistency from him. He doesn't have to get 22 and 8 and 8 every game, but he's got to be better than 1 for 7 and, have these 8-point games here and there and have a little more balance to his game would be a big help. And not forgetting about how good he is defensively and all the blocks he gets too. So I'm not dumping on Derek White. Don't start now. There's not being negative Ned here on Derek White. I just hope that as the season goes along and we get towards the playoffs, that whatever's off with him won't be off anymore later on. So good game. Again, Queta, 14 points, 13 rebounds. I mean, I said from the very beginning of the year, I like this kid. So, extremely happy with him. And we'll see what happens. Peyton Pritchett, cold, 2 of 13. Ouch, 8 points. That's bad for him, really bad. Coming off the other 2 games where it was really hot. So, again, these guys are going to have clunkers. And sometimes, at least this was a game where, he might have been the only one cold as opposed to a whole bunch of everybody. But as a team, they only shot 13 of 47 from 3, 28%. That's bad. I don't like that. And then in the last game they played on the road, they played Denver. Nikola Jokic. Oh, excuse me. They lost 103-84. Jokic, sorry. I'm just going to call him the Joker because that's what everybody calls him. It's easier that way. 30 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists. The dude is just unstoppable. He's insane. Jaylen Brown, 23 points. Derek White, 20. Peyton Pritchett, only 3 points. 1 of 6 shooting. Unbelievable. As a team, they were 29 of 83 for the game, 35%, and 13 of 43 from 3 for 28%. So, again, as we hop on this all the time, more than half the shots are threes. They don't go in, and they're going to lose. So, this is another one of those games. And so we've been on this for 3 years now, and there's no let up with it. So it is what it is. But I mean, overall, look, I only had them at 2-2 on the trip. I thought that they would lose. I thought they would lose to Golden State and Denver. So they went 3-1 on the trip. To me, that's a successful trip. They're still in first place. I think they're a game or a game and a half in first place over the Knicks. They're second in the Eastern Conference. And hopefully they'll be getting Jason Tatum back pretty soon. He has begun practicing 5-on-5 with the team. So, all the stuff I mentioned last week about him doing like the docuseries and whatnot about the 5-part thing coming back. I think this is part number 3 coming up. They're going to be showing. So, and of course, all sports radio is going crazy. I missed a lot of the commentary about, whether he's going to come in off the bench or whether he's going to start. I guess he started 585 straight games, and it kind of sounds like he wants to keep that streak going and not come off the bench, which seems awful selfish to me for a guy coming off that kind of injury, trying to work his way back. It's one thing that really frustrates me about these guys. They just can't put the ego in check. Can you put him out there and start him for like 2 minutes and then call a timeout and get him off the court so you can have his stupid record? and then leave him on the bench and use him the way you want and ease him back in. I mean, these are the little things that aggravate me, and it's because I'm old school, right? Um, I just don't like the selfish me crap. I can't stand it. That's what these players are. They're all me's now. Uh, there's very few of them that are selfish, unselfish. Sorry, there's very few of them that are unselfish, and it's very frustrating. And I don't know what the fix is for it. You know, uh, I feel like sometimes they're like, "Yeah, I got my championship. I'm good." You know, it's like, no, you're not good yet, dude. You got to win more. Like, what's wrong with going for one or two more, or more than that? Like, I just, I don't know, I'm very frustrated with that. But I mean, and as I said before, the most important thing is that he has to be 100% healthy, and if he's not, he shouldn't come back. It's not worth it. You know, where they are now, no one expected them to be where they are, and um, it's not worth the risk of having his career ruined or having him miss another season trying to come back too soon. And then you're not wasting just this year, you're wasting next year too, or beyond. So he's got to be smart. I want him to come back, and I think he is going to come back. But if he does it, he's got to make sure he's 100% and stop with the ego trip stuff, dude. Just you know, get right. You know, just get right. That's what you got to do. Um, you know, he's worried about messing up the chemistry. That's for Joe Mazzulla to work out. That's what you have coaching staff for. You know, I just talked about, Frank with the rotations and whatnot. He's going to have to figure out the rotations when Jason Tatum comes back. And everybody knows that, you know, he's easily a top 10 player in the league. So, when you get one of them guys back, a lot of scuttlebutt about, oh, we got rid of Simons. He was giving us 20 points a game. Well, he was on an expiring contract, and that's not what they needed. When you have Jason Tatum coming back, he's way better than Simons. 25 points a game versus 14, 16, 20 off the bench, maybe an occasional 40. And you got, Jason Tatum, if he's healthy and he's in there and he's starting and he's getting 25, 28, 30 points a game. It's huge. It's a boost. You don't need that. And they needed rebounding. So I think I commend Brad Stevens. That's a guy that if he hasn't had or isn't getting the credit that he deserves, he'll get it, and he should, for sure. So, excuse me. Um, he's done a phenomenal job. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys can do over the next month and a half. I want to see. I want to see them just continue to do what they've been doing. They should be, listen. I had them at fourth or fifth in the conference. I had them at 45 to 48 wins. I thought that without Tatum, they could at least minimum get that. They're going to get more than 50 wins. They're on pace for 53 maybe-ish or something like that. So they're way ahead of where I thought they would be and where a lot of people thought they would be without Tatum. A lot of people had them not making the playoffs. I thought that they had enough talent to be better than that. I mean, there's no way they should not make the playoffs with the guys they have. And so kudos to all of them. Joe Mazzulla included, as much as I hate the threes. You have to give credit where credit is due. Remember his first year when he came in and Tatum and Brown, it felt like what he walked into was like they were kind of running the show and he didn't really have to do as much. But now you can definitely see, I think, and I'm sure there's some people that disagree with this, of course, because they have to be negative. But, I mean, if I'm going to bash Joe Mazzulla for the threes, I have to give him credit for, what he's done without Jason Tatum with the roster as it's currently constituted and having these guys in first place and having these guys second in the Eastern Conference. I mean, if they finish first in the division and they finish second in the Eastern Conference when the playoffs start, if he doesn't get Coach of the Year, uh, somebody's smoking something because he's really done a good job. Because it's insane to lose your best guy like that and then still be in first place. Not too many teams can do that, you know. So I think he's done a great job, and I want to see it continue. I hope that they can keep it going, and they can make a run. And I don't know if they can make the Eastern Conference Finals because the Knicks seem to have their number now all of a sudden. And the Knicks, to me, they're not that bad. They're not better than you. You had their number last year in the regular season, beat them 4-0 or whatever, and then the playoffs came and they beat you. But I don't, and they're beating you this year. I don't think they're better. I just don't. I don't know what they have. You got to get an answer for Jalen Brunson. Brunson's killing them. So when that time comes around, hopefully, in playoffs, if they end up meeting each other, Celtics can rectify last year's loss. All right, let me watch the time here. We're going to move on to the Patriots. I'm wicked. Oh boy, me and my hot air here. I'm going to talk about the Patriots briefly. They are at the NFL Combine. So they're excuse me. Now we're going to start with the voice. Hold on. They're out there evaluating players and whatnot. And somebody asked Mike Vrabel. I don't have the question in front of me verbatim, but something about spending in the off season, what they might do. And I'm paraphrasing his comment. He said, if I'm in Neiman Marcus and I see something I want, I just buy it. So that tells me he's not afraid to spend money. However, I hope he doesn't have to do like Gerard Mayo last year and walk it back after Gerard Mayo said we're going to burn some cash. Let's hope that he doesn't fall into that category. Listen, they're going to have to spend money because they're going to have to pay Christian Gonzalez. And if that guy is not on the top of the list, that's going to be a problem. He proved, so when they didn't have him at the beginning of the year and they were losing and they were struggling defensively, and then he came back in and you saw how good they were with him, and then you see him in the Super Bowl and so on and so on. Listen, he's a shutdown guy. He's a top tier shutdown guy. You nailed that draft pick. You have to pay him. And I don't usually Frank knows, I don't usually, people, you guys know, I don't usually say pay 30, 35 million bucks. But that's the going rate for a shutdown corner. And you got one. And they ain't easy to get. So if I was the Patriots, I would be looking to do something with that and lock him up. So that's where I would start, when free agency starts or when the contracts come around or whatever it is. But, as far as them spending money, there's a lot of scuttlebutt about, we talked last week, A.J. Brown, the Patriots trying to make a trade for him maybe because he has ties to Mike Vrabel and this and that. And, somebody asked him about Brown and he just said that, the Patriots are looking at all options to improve the roster, including potential high-profile trades. And what else is he going to say? There's a tampering period here, too, before free agency and before the whole thing kicks off. So you can't only say so much. You can't name players. You can't say, yeah, we're going to trade with Philly tomorrow. Like, they can't do any of that. I don't know what else you would expect them to say other than, no, we're not spending any money this year. We're going to have to do with less, blah, blah. That would be a complete disaster. Everybody around here would lose their minds. So they're not going to do that. There has to be a balance, though, because you just can't keep spending, over and over and over and over and over again, and then put yourself in salary cap jail. And I know that there's sports radio guys that say that the cap is crap and it's phooey and it's fugazi and that money doesn't matter and you can manipulate it anyway. Yeah, you can to a point. You can to a point, but it can and will catch up to you when you're in a spot where now you have to pay Christian Gonzalez 30 or 35 million. Next year, you might have to pay Drake May 60 to 70 million a year. And you have to be prepared for that. And so I think they only have 48 million in cap space or some stupid number. So they don't have 100 and something million like they had last year. They spent it, which means if they want to get to that number again this offseason, they have to make some moves and cut some guys. And so, who are the guys they're going to cut? Chase on might not be back. He's a free agent. He had a good year, 7.5 sacks. He's going to get offers. I don't think he'll be back. Rightfully so. Good for him. Jalen Hawkins, he's another guy I think they're looking at maybe not keeping. Carlton Davis, I know they signed him for a 3-year deal or whatever, but they might, move on from him to free up space. And you want to talk about adding a guy like A.J. Brown, whose salary is $29 million or $30 million. You have to find a way to maybe renegotiate that or get the Eagles to eat some of it, and they're not going to do that. They got to restructure his contract so he gets whatever most of that money so you can take him on. Or, Max Crosby, who's been talked about in a trade with the Raiders because he wants to play for Mike Vrabel because he likes Vrabel and blah, blah. Like, there's a whole bunch of crap that has to happen, and those guys are high-priced guys. And I don't know if getting Max Crosby is the answer because they got to do something on offense. You have to get a number one wide receiver. And I have nothing against Stephon Diggs. Had a great year. Was great in the locker room, great for the team. I forget what his salary cap number is. I think it's either 21 or 26 million this year. There's no way they're going to keep him at that number. Maybe he can restructure and stay on for a lesser number, like 12 or 14 as a cap number, and then give him his money in a signing bonus and make up the difference that way so they can pay him in cash and then go get a number one guy so he can be the number two because that's kind of where he fits right now. Again, I worry about adding A.J. Brown and Stephon Diggs when you have two guys that think they're the number one, and then they're going to fight over who's getting the ball. The diva receivers, you know how I feel about them. I'm not a fan. That bothers me, but whatever. There's a lot to consider. Now, as far as the combine goes, Mike Vrabel says he highlighted a strong focus on scouting edge rushers, and he already met with two of them. Cassius Howell from Texas A&M, 6'2", 255, 11.5 sacks last year. And Zion Young from Missouri, 6'5", 262, 6.5 sacks, 42 tackles. Listen, they have to get guys, young guys, and draft them, hopefully, and find diamond in the rough. I thought Keon White was going to be that guy. I really had high hopes for him. I think that maybe the scheme, he didn't fit the scheme. So he wasn't a fit here. Again, I get frustrated when they get talented guys like this and they don't pan out. But hopefully they can get one of these guys. If it was me and I was the GM, and of course everybody's going to be lucky that I'm not, it would be Christian Gonzalez first, wide receiver second, upgrade that offense, and probably offensive line third. They got to do something to upgrade the offensive line. I mentioned last week a couple of guys I thought could come in as a guards or right, tackle, whatever. I would get a guard. I would get a left guard. There's guys out there you can plug them right in, move Wilson from left guard to center, put him in his natural position, and leave Will Campbell at tackle, and then get maybe a reliable backup somehow for that spot. Or like a swing tackle guy in free agency that can play both sides so that when either one of Campbell or Moses goes down, you got a reliable guy you can throw in there. So, look, all kinds of options, all kinds of talk, time to talk about that stuff. We'll have a whole, next month, the draft. We're going to have, all kinds of stuff to talk about with trades and all kinds of stuff. So uh, we'll have plenty to talk about. Let me move on. We're going to touch on quickly Red Sox spring training news. Um, the Red Sox are so far 5-2 in spring training. Take it with a grain of salt. Now I know that the starters, at least in the lineup, have been at least starting the games and then coming out because a lot of them are going to play in the World Baseball Classic. Excuse me, which I think starts in another week or two. I forget when it starts, but they're going to be starting that, and so getting a half a sneak peek at what the lineup might look like. Let's see. Today they beat Tampa 7-5. It was Garrett Crochet's first start. He pitched 2 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 1 walk, no strikeouts. 23 pitches, light work. Break them in easy. Trevor Story was 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs. Caleb Durbin, the new third baseman we traded for from Milwaukee, 1 for 2 with a double and a 2 RBI today. He's definitely going to crack probably third base. I think he played second today. He has versatility to play both. I think he's going to be starting at third, though. And I don't know what they're going to do at second base yet. All I care is that they put somebody there that can actually friggin' field. And I've already been over that, so I'm not going to do it again. Yesterday, they beat Minnesota 5-3. Johan Oviedo, the guy they got from Pittsburgh, 1 2/3 innings, 1 hit, 3 walks, 1 strikeout, 33 pitches. Again, it's their first outing. They're rusty. Looks like he's probably going to be the 5th starter. At least that's what they're trying to do. We'll see. And Tuesday, they lost to Pittsburgh 16-7. And I got to watch a little bit of this game because of the snowstorm. And let me tell you something. There's a kid they have. He's 19 years old, Connor Griffin, 6'3", 205 pounds. He looks bigger on TV than what those numbers say. He looked like Aaron Judge Jr. He just looked big. And he hit 2 home runs. Now, they were playing in Jet Blue Park in Florida, which is a mimic replica of Fenway. It has like the monster wall thing, but it doesn't have the monster seats. It just has like a concourse. He hit a ball over that whole thing his first time up. 2-run shot. Boom. Done. He came up again later on. Like his next time up. Another 2-run bomb. Out of the stadium, over everything. This dude's going to be a monster. I would be surprised if he doesn't make the team later in the year somehow. They may start him at AAA, but I don't know how long he's going to last down there because that dude was insane. So, it remains to be seen what the Red Sox are going to be doing. The World Baseball Classic, I don't like it. I don't know how often they do it. I forget if they do it every year or not now. It feels like they're doing it every year. I don't like it. It disrupts the flow of spring training and the chemistry and all that stuff. I wish that they would find a way to do that like in November. But I don't know, whatever. Curious to see what these guys are going to look like. So listen, 5-2 so far. Can't complain. First week into spring training. Okay, let's move on to. Usually we move on to the poll questions. We don't have any poll questions for this week because I was slacking, so I apologize for that. As for the predictions, where are my predictions from last week? Uh-oh. Boy. Wait a minute. Ooh. Where did I put them? Oh, right here. All right, sorry about that. Weekly predictions. Let's see. I said that the USA would beat Canada in the gold medal hockey game. Ding, ding, ding. Uh, it wasn't as easy as uh, I thought it would be for them to get there. I said the Celtics would split on the 4-game road trip. Wrong. Back to reality. Getting them wrong. And I said that Jeremy Swayman would get a shutout in his Olympic debut. Wrong. He was horrible. He was not good in the game he played in. He gave up 3 goals. So wrong again. And again, I fell asleep at the wheel. So I don't have any predictions ready for this week. Let me say this. I think the Bruins will make a trade. And I know it won't. I think the Bruins will make a trade, and it might actually come before the deadline this week. So I will say that they're going to make a trade. I can't say what it's going to be, but I'll say before we come on next Thursday, they get something done, whether it's big or small. Excuse me. I'll say that. And then let's see, the Celtics. I forget who they have coming up this week. I'll say Jaylen Brown, another triple-double this week, since he's been getting so good at it. We'll do that. Red Sox. It's really hard to pinpoint anything on the Red Sox right now. It's too early. So I'm not going to make any predictions with them. So I don't have anything else. I'm sorry, I don't have more ready. So we will wrap it up. Name of the show is called Boston Straight Shooters. We're on every week, every Thursday at 8 o'clock. I want to thank you all for watching. Thanks for support. Thanks for voting in the polls. Thanks for the commentary. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, and we'll see you next week. Peace.